All right, welcome back to Resilient Voices and Beyond. I'm so excited for today's episode. But before I get deep into the meat of it all, or the vegetables for my vegetarians, vegans out there, trying to be all inclusive. um, I just want to give thanks to all the support, all the encouraging comments, the kindness that you guys as an audience and just the people out there, have been showing me, but also showing my guests, supporting their businesses, their books, their work, their art. So thank you so much for that. Truly means a lot. I know a lot of us out here have some really dark moments like I do, like I've mentioned before, where it's hard to continue in this work sometimes because sometimes you have the questions of, is this work helping anybody? Is it touching the people I want it to? Or, just it's a lot to keep a lot of this stuff going. It's a lot to do this, and for some people, be a son, be a husband, be a wife, be a mother, a father, because unfortunately, you know, but fortunately, there is a sacrifice to the work that a lot of people do. And a lot of people do it because they have the heart for it and they love to do it, but also they know that there is a sacrifice. So thank you for all the support, all the kindness. Please continue to do it because you just don't know what type of day someone is having out there and what your words may do for them. Because I know each and every time I see it, my face lights up because I'm one of those individuals that no matter how many times you say it, it's still, I don't know if this, I guess it's the imposter syndrome for me. I don't realize where I am in other people's minds in the aspect of this work. Um, and I've, for some people, obviously, I did the thing, and I was just like working, going hard like I haven't, and I will continue to because, that's just the type of person that I am. But I thank you guys so much because life be life all the time and it ain't gonna stop. So, with that being said, if you have happened to stumble across season 3, episode 19 here today, and you just don't know who is this person talking, he a little bit funny, he got the jokey jokes, whatever. Um, but I don't even know who this man is. Like, first of all, what is resiliency and beyond? How did he even come up with this name? Uh, my name is Michael D. Davis Thomas, aka MDDT Speaks. Yes, it is my initials. But I have spent 11 years in the Michigan child welfare system. Part of that being on the juvenile side, the other part of that being in the foster care side, aging out. I started advocating at 15 and worked in various different positions surrounding system change, work, child welfare, juvenile, criminal justice, homelessness, and more. So that's why I'm here today. That's my little, certifications, resume, whatever stamp to let you know, like I'm just not talking out the side of my neck. There is some experience behind it, some expertise lived and professional. But you guys aren't here for me. Yeah, I know I probably for the ones that's been here. Yeah, I know I can talk. But I'm gonna give it to my guest to introduce herself.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me on. I was holding back my laughs. You are very funny, Michael. I was holding back tears over here. My name is Shanita Perdomo, and I am also um, I was also a foster youth. I was a foster youth in Alameda County in California. I am Detroit born, but Oakland, California raised. And I'm just really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Problem, no problem. I was gonna say you wouldn't really gotta mention the Oakland. You could just stay at the Detroit, but some of them Oakland people out there, because they got a song. They got a song for Oakland. So I'm like, any city that got a song, you just don't mess with them. You know, but anybody that know me know I love my city, Detroit. I'm gonna go hard for it, but that's not what we're here for today. um, I like to start these off by kind of getting a sense of who you are and building a timeline to your now from your then. So to whatever ability that you're comfortable with, walk us through how you ended up in care. What did it look like in care? What did it look like coming out of care? Were you adopted, fostered, aged out, what have you, to your work now? And what was the
Yeah,
barriers?
yeah. So, I was born in Detroit back in '89, and my mother always struggled. Well, I shouldn't say always, but by the time I was born, she had struggled with drug addiction for so many years. And she was actually shot and pistol whipped
Mm,
and left in a garbage can. And I was newly born. And due to her drug struggles, she would leave me in drug houses around Detroit. And my aunts and uncles would be constantly looking for me. And so after that ordeal, when we think somebody was trying to take her life, that's when we moved to California to start over. My grandmother had recently married, and my he's the only grandfather I know. He was a retired Marine, so that's how we just ended up in California. We went to go pretty much start our California life with my grandparents. And my mom remarried. She had more children. She was still struggling with drug addiction. And what was happening was that because she was struggling with, this sickness, I became a parentified child. So I was the oldest of five siblings, four, well, my four younger siblings, and I would have to, stay home from school, watch my siblings, care for my siblings. And although I had a stepfather who was providing for us, he had to work, and we were pretty much living off of his one income because my mother didn't work. She was she was for the most part a absent parent. And so with all that said, that just caused community members to be concerned, right, as they should. And we had some neighbors who would constantly see my mom going in and out the apartment, all hours of the day, and it became a habit where they knew what my father's work schedule was, and so they knew when the children were there by themselves. So we had a few visits from CPS, as they call it in California, Child Protective Services. And because of that, I was missing school a lot. And my grandparents were still living in California. So, with what my grandmother did in an effort to motivate my mom to stay home with her children, was that she pretty much said, I'm going to have Shanita come live with us. So I lived with my grandparents for a few years in elementary school, and those are I would say the highlight years of my life because I got a lot of stability. I got emotional stability. I ate food every day. I didn't have to fend for myself. I didn't have to look over my back. I wasn't a latchkey kid, and all those things that come with just um, dealing with a parent who is addicted to drugs. So while I was living at home with my grandparents, that's when CPS got heavily involved because my mom would still leave my younger siblings by themselves. So they went in and out of foster care several times, but I didn't experience it at that point because I was with my grandparents. And then there was a point in my life where my grandfather passed away, so I moved back to Detroit for a year, and then my grandmother got sick, so I had to move back to California. And that's when CPS got back involved because, again, now there's an 11-year-old taken care of. younger children. And thank God, we never had a situation where my siblings choked or anything where I had to, call the ambulance or anything like that. But again, there were still those concerned neighbors. And and when I got back from Detroit, I thought that my mother would have changed her behavior a little bit. I thought that, I was pretty much going back to a new family, and that wasn't the case. So CPS would, peek in for my middle school years, but then my last year of middle school, I was in 8th grade, and what I would do to try to trick my mom into letting me go to school the next day, I would come home after middle school around 6 o'clock because I figured my mom has gone on a drug binge for, you know, let's say 3, 4 days. And when she comes back home, she's just sleeping. So my strategy was go to school while she's still asleep, but don't come back until later because she'll still like she'll go to sleep again, which means that you probably have another chance to go back to school the next day. So that was my strategy. Now, one particular day, I don't know why, I ended up coming home early. And when I got home, the police was at my house, CPS, they were at my house, my stepfather, who to describe him, um, how would I describe him? He was very introverted and a little socially awkward. So when, all these people were at his house, I saw him just in a frantic state. And when he saw me walking up, he said, "Oh, that's my older daughter. That's my older daughter." And immediately the police started asking me questions and they said, "Do you know where your sisters are?" And I looked at my stepfather with my eyes to say, "What are they talking about?" And then he said, "Your sisters are missing." And so, at that point, I don't even remember what happened next. I just remember having flyers in my hand with my sisters' faces on it. And I began to just canvass the neighborhood. And at this was about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. I was walking on one side of the street past a park where my sisters were last seen. And I looked across the street and saw my mother walking in the opposite direction. And I looked at her with this blank stare to say, what are you doing? you know, we in a crisis right now. Your daughters are missing. And that's exactly what I said. I said, your daughters are missing. Where are you going? And she looked at me and I could tell she was high. And she said, just go back home, just go back home. And I think at that point, she I one I've never seen my mother high. She's always stayed out of the house when she would do drugs and then come back to pretty much sleep it off, eat, and then go back. So that was the first time in my life where I kind of saw my mother not in her usual state. And it was, it was, it was a shock for me because you know, I knew that she was doing drugs, but again, to see it I was just shocked because I thought, wow, how dare you be out on the streets for people to see you like this, on top of your daughter's missing. So my mom pretty much kept walking in the direction of where the drug house was. And I continue to, ask people, ask drug dealers that was standing outside, ask the other people who were standing outside if they saw my sisters. And my two younger brothers had already been removed. So when I went back home, I, slept it off, cried all night. I don't even know if I even slept, but I went back to school the next day. And this was the same week that I was scheduled to be promoted to high school or graduate. And I was in the principal's office watching the news. I saw my sister's face on the news. And then, about an hour or two later, my mentor at the time, who was also a social worker, came to me and she said, Shanita, the CPS reached out to me and they said that they're going to remove you. So just be prepared for that. You're not going to go home today. They're going to come and get you. So, then after that on the news, I saw that my sisters were discovered. They were found. And they were actually walking down the street being recorded by the news the news station. And what happened was that instead of them coming home from the park, they went to a friend's house to stay the night, and they didn't tell my father or anything. So thank God that they were safe. But when they got found, they were removed. And then I pretty much, left school early to dodge CPS. And then a few weeks later, or not even a few weeks, a few days later, they came to get me. I was placed into a foster home, temporary foster home. All of my siblings, we were all together. And we were there for about 2 to 3 weeks while my second cousin, who lived in California, was applying for kinship guardianship over us. So that ended up happening. We stayed with him and his wife and their two granddaughters from 2008. I'm sorry, from 2004. I moved out in 2008. That's when I aged out. And when I aged out, it was the same year that our mother had died of AIDS. And I went on to UC Berkeley, and my siblings were still in care with our second cousin. Our second cousin was he had his own struggles. Him and his wife had recently got divorced, and so he was pretty much a pastor trying to take care of 4 kids by himself. And my sisters, because I wasn't there, my sisters then became the parentified child or children. And there were things happening like, I mean, they were literally in middle school having to cook, clean, watch after our younger brothers, pretty much fend for themselves. And there were times that our second cousin, because he worked a lot, he would fall asleep behind the wheel. They got into a few car accidents that could have really been fatal. And my younger brother was really struggling. He had a really bad speech impediment, and he would run away from his elementary school. We'll be looking for him in the streets of Oakland, which is not safe. And so there were just a lot of things happening. My sisters would call me. I was in college, and they would call me crying and all these things. Now, mind you, we just lost our mother. My stepfather, who was their father, he wasn't really involved. He was trying to get custody of them, but because he didn't have the space, the apartment, he didn't have the support, there were so many previous removals, they weren't giving him his children back. That's when I decided to step in and petition the court to foster my siblings. And at 19 years old, I was awarded custody of my 4 siblings while I was in college. And I took care of them up until my sister graduated high school. So she pretty much aged out. She started life on her own. And then my younger sister was having some issues with just some undiagnosed mental health issues. And she would run away a lot, pulled out weapons on us, or knives, I should say. And I had to put her back in care. So when I moved to the East Coast, where I am now, it was just my brothers and I. And literally today, the day that we're recording this is my younger brother's 21st birthday. So I wouldn't say he aged out. He probably aged out a few years ago when he went to college and moved out. But yeah, that's pretty much our journey. Um, with some other things that happen in between, but that's our in my foster care experience timeline.
Wow. I I'm just, listening and taking all that in, from experiencing, let's say foster care wasn't even a thing, experiencing a parent um going through substance use, that's something in itself
Yeah.
to then, you know, because life is expensive, and I don't know if there was other things, having
Mhm.
to experience individuals, put their duties onto you and your
Yeah.
siblings. Um, and and that's something I can relate to because I had people in my life, and even being in life now where individuals may not have any malice or ill will, but unfortunately, it's expensive out here. It's been expensive out here. And to just try to and to try to take care of individuals, a lot of times it sounds great. Like I want to be there, I want to support. And then you start to realize the bills that come into it.
Yeah.
Mm. So that that's real. That's life.
Yeah.
And that's somebody's story out there today that is
Yeah.
probably fostering, probably being a kin, and they're like, I didn't know. Bring it up.
I was gonna say that's a perfect way to say it. And I was just, I was honestly just really blessed when I got custody of my siblings.
Mhm.
One, I was an anomaly, right? Because who gives a 19-year-old custody?
That's a
And
lifetime movie for you right there.
it is. And if I could show you the court date in my mind, you would be like your wig would be blown off because your wig would be blown off. When I was in college, I was a part of a independent scholars program.
Mhm,
Um um what was it called? I forget, but UC Berkeley's scholarship foster care program
mhm,
for aged out youth who were college students, of course. And I was in that program, and because I was an emancipated foster youth, there were perks, I would say, or mm, yeah, I guess we can call them perks that came with that. So, for example, when there was spring break, winter break, I didn't have to leave campus because I had no home.
mhm,
So I got to stay there on campus. I had unlimited. My food plan was unlimited, and because I worked really hard in high school, I was in college on two full ride scholarships.
mhm,
So I was pretty much set. I was pretty much set. I just didn't have family support. And my college and the programs that I was in made it really comfortable for me so that I could focus on my studies and I can have all the support that I needed. And when I went to the director of this program, pretty much crying to her, telling her about my sibling situation, she said, "Well, how do you feel about getting custody of them?" And she said, "Because UC Berkeley has a student housing complex. So you could stay there. There are other families who are students that stay there. There are staff members, faculty members who live there with their families. Your rent, all of that will be included in your financial aid package." And Bill Gates was paying my school. So she was pretty much like, run it up because you have it. So so I said, okay. So then she connected me to a lawyer, this program, um, that it was pretty much a pro bono lawyer that advocated for families in foster care, children in foster care, called Avokids. I think it's national, actually, Avokids. And I received a pro bono lawyer. I talked through the case with her. I gave her proof and, all the things that she needed to build a case. And because I had to bring this, I had to serve my family member,
Mm,
right? So this is a man who in a way broke a promise that he and his wife had not to bring in any more kids. And he said, well, this is my family. I will always respect him for that. I will. And so he sacrificed a lot just to bring us into his home so we can all stay together. We wouldn't be separated. So when he did that, um just things just snowballed, like, and we could be here all day to tell you very specifics. We could be here all day, but things just snowballed. So now, you know I decided in my senior year of high school, when he got the divorce, he said, okay, you're coming to live with me. But I said no, because I know that I'm not going to graduate school, because I'm going to be so engrossed and taking care of my siblings. I won't be able to do the things I'm doing. So that right there put a rift in our relationship. He was upset. He felt like I was turning my back on him. I didn't speak. He didn't let me speak to my siblings for months. For months. He didn't let me see my siblings. I had to see them when my dad had them, um, on the weekends. And so there was that. So anyway, now I have a lawyer. I told her pretty much everything that my siblings have told me and shared about their experience, and now I have to serve him papers. and and he was seethingly angry. And again, I didn't get to see my siblings during the whole process. Um, my stepfather was very upset with me because he felt like, how are you getting custody? And I'm the father, and they won't even give me custody. So the day of court, there was me, little old me, sitting on one side of the courtroom, and my stepfather and my cousin. Right, these are two grown men in their 50s, somewhere 60s, and uh, black macho men, right? And they're sitting there feeling judged, feeling disrespected, feeling very emasculated, because here's little old Shanita pretty much throwing all their dirt out to get custody of my siblings. And when the judge hit the gavel and said, I'm awarding custody to Shanita Talton, they literally threw the chairs back, and my cousin yelled at the judge, "You're playing Russian roulette with these kids' lives. Those kids won't survive." And I don't know why he said that, because I was the one causing everybody to survive. So I don't know why he said that. And my stepfather left. So I say all that to say that it did cause a ripple effect, because where I thought I was doing something good for my siblings, other people didn't think the same way. And
mhm,
even family members in Detroit didn't talk to me. I felt like it was this, Shanita, what you did, it wasn't really about your siblings. I think for my older relatives, it was about, they felt small and disrespected, because in a way I went over them to help my younger siblings in a way that, whether they felt like they were providing all the help they needed. So why would, like, what's wrong? What's the matter? And I didn't have family support. But again, my family didn't speak to me for years. It was just my siblings and I. And I recently got saved. So I came to the Lord around that time. I had a church family that was very, very, very supportive. I wouldn't have been able to do a lot of things. I probably wouldn't have even graduated college if it wasn't for the support of my church and my college community. And yeah, like I did this thing and I did it for my siblings, and I know that we were all better off for it, but it did um it caused a deep gash that relationships, I would say probably 4 years ago, have just started to mend.
You you said you gave me a lot there, but one thing that stuck out to me is how you, without saying it, kind of laid out the dynamic of some, because I don't want to generalize it, of some black families, black homes.
Mhm.
Because I experienced it with my family. Pretty sure some others out there could. It's kind of like, you know, I'm like ego, pride, comes before a certain standard of how you're supposed to live. Like I'm supposed to stroke your ego, make you feel comfortable, make you feel respected versus being in a non-abusive, a non-neglectful, a
Mm,
safe environment. Like,
yeah.
it wasn't about the kids. It wasn't about the siblings. It wasn't about your safety. It wasn't about mom not being able to take care of me. Mom not even knowing that, your sisters was missing probably,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was about this, because it happens, one, you're a child, stay in a child's place.
Yep.
You know,
Yep. Yep.
like I don't know how many people heard that out there, but I know that was in the mindset. You a
Mhm.
child. What you mean?
Mhm.
What?
And then I'm sitting here thinking, but treat me like a child then,
Mhm.
because you leave me here to take care of your kids. I got to figure out what they're going to eat. I got to change diapers.
Yeah.
I have to, all of the things. And because of that, and that's another, speaking of just struggling with having a relationship with my family members, you know, I've always struggled
Mhm.
with having, and I don't want to call it normal, but just having a semblance of, okay, I'm this younger I'm coming from the younger generation, and I have to have a relationship with you, but it's hard because you treat me as your equal in terms of tasks, roles, and responsibilities.
Mhm.
But then when it comes to certain things, now you want me to get back into a child's place.
Yeah.
And that's hard for me because now I have this shell, right? So the thing that you failed to do has now become my survival mechanism. And so because you failed to protect me as a child, now I have this shield over me that I don't trust adults. I don't trust what they say. I struggle with just authority figures. Even to this day, I'm 33 years old and I still feel some type of way when an adult says, ask me first, or you know, I'm like, ooh, ah, that's and it's nothing towards them. It's just them putting their finger in a wound.
Mhm.
And they don't know it, but I'm having a reaction to this relationship dynamic that I've never been safe in. So
Mhm.
now when it comes to me, I feel unsafe. I feel like I need to challenge it. I feel like I need to have the last word. I feel like, okay, no, you need to hear me because as a child, I was taught to keep secrets. And I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to walk away from this relationship feeling like I need to keep your secret. And so therefore I'm going to speak my mind and I'm going to put it out there, even if that means we just don't have a relationship. That's fine with me because I didn't trust you in the first place, you know. So, to your point, and I don't know what it is, and I feel like it's something to do a deep dive into why I'm and I guess I've seen it from when I work with families, as a caseworker where, I'm 5'2". I'm like 100 and what, 30, 40 pounds. And but back then when I was just starting out my career in casework, working with families who just got their kids back from foster care, here I am, 5'2", 120, right? Skinny mini, as my family would call me, skinny mini, coming in, hey, how you doing? So, when they talk about what happened, blah, 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 and they're looking at me like, little girl, what you gonna tell me about how I run my family? What you gonna tell me about, them white people took my kids. Them white people took my kids. They don't know what they talking about. I know how to take care of my kids. And I would have to challenge them on, "Ooh, you know, mm, should you have um should you have left your 5-year-old with your baby? I don't know." Maybe that's why they came in. And but it was still that mindset of I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Even if it puts my kid in danger, I still know what I'm doing.
yeah. I often like go into like these research dives. Some people go into like they get on YouTube and then they go after one video after one video. I get into these research dives and just one thing that I'm continuously trying to understand and conceptualize, within my mind is where is the turning point of rationalization of reality for some of these parents? Because there's certain instincts that we have or that we should have, that are moral and, humane. And in some of these scenarios, like just that scenario you just brought, a 5-year old, being in charge of a newborn. Ain't nobody else there. But that's somebody's truth, And,
Right.
and somewhere in that mom and that dad or both, you know, mind, okay, in the process of leaving the home, all right, you make sure you feed her at this time. Make sure you do this and that. And the 5-year-old, I just can imagine watching Gracie's Corner or something, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
like with
Mhm.
the,
Mhm.
and I just really tried to grasp how do you rationalize is okay. I know we live in a day and age where we almost like even outside of my childhood trauma and the foster care trauma of whatever, I feel like we all are in a sense of survival because of
Yeah.
the economy.
Yeah.
The decisions we have to make as employers and dang near I was looking at something and it said, and this shocked me. If you make $100,000 a year, you are in the middle class now.
Mhm.
I'm just like, so if they is $100,000 in the middle class, when I saw, I was like, I ain't got no doggone hope. Just tell me, like, what, you know? But that's real. That's real.
Yeah.
So, like, I know that's a part of it. But even then, I'm just like, okay, well, common decency, like, no matter what, like, that's your kid. So I
Yeah.
just often think about that. But that's my little ramble. I want to cycle to my next question for you because we can go deep and deep within that. My next question to you is okay. You said you were around 19 when you took in your sisters um and your brothers assuming following that. Um Now I gotta ask, we gonna get deep because it's real. It's somebody's reality, and I want this to touch somebody out there, that's still surviving. You know, um, what did that look like for you? Because now you still learning you. The data, the scientists tells us that our brain don't get to its full capability, until 25, after 25. But don't let
Yeah.
you have been through some things because it pushes you back a couple years, you know. So you at 19, you already had to adult earlier than that. So there was a level of maturity that you did have.
Mhm.
But there was a sacrifice of your life, not only for your childhood, but you chose as
Mhm.
an adult at that point to sacrifice again.
Mhm.
You know, that meant, you know, relationships, Friday nights, like because you was in college. We ain't out there, what did that
Yeah.
look like for you mentally and as far as that time of finding identity, finding who you were as a woman, in that time, but having to be a parent essentially.
Yeah. That's a good question. And there are so many layers to it. I will start with when I got custody of my siblings, I had I I was in this place of I can't go on and enjoy where I am now,
Mm,
knowing that my siblings are suffering. They are even, to this day, and that's just stuff that I'm working through. They are I gave them this acronym at one point when I got custody of them called BOOTS.
mhm,
BOOTS. And it means born out of the struggle.
mhm,
And I didn't, they're not my children. I didn't birth them. Um, but our relationship is very maternal because that's just how it was. Um, essentially I raised all my siblings. And from when I was a 6-year-old girl, you mentioned we talked about the anecdotal 5-year-old taking care of the newborn. That was me. And I was in college. I felt like my freshman year, I did the college parties and dated. I had a car. I just had this freedom, right, that I never had before,
mhm,
and I went with it. I went with it. And on the weekends, I was going to pick up my siblings and bring them to the campus. So they would literally stay in the dorm with me over the weekends. Everybody knew those are Shanita's siblings. Oh my gosh, they can come to my room. My siblings were on different floors, hanging out with different people almost every other weekend. So there was that. And then when I got custody of them, I was also in this place of, and I mentioned it earlier, I was just coming to this place in my faith walk where the the lust, the pride of life just wasn't it for me.
mhm,
And and it was such a, when I say, and everybody has different spiritual experiences, but for me, it was like, okay, this is not for you. This is not for you. This is not for you. I would be in a relationship and I would feel this deep sense of guilt, conviction. That's not for you. I tried to get drunk for spring break, ended up drunk and praying.
No, that's real. No,
I
that's
was
real.
like, when I say I was praying, and I'm not gonna get into specifics on your podcast, but I was praying unto God, and my roommates were like, "That is bad enough," and I couldn't, like, I was messing up everybody high because I it just wasn't for me. So so that was also something I was about to sacrifice, right? Talking about
Mhm.
my identity and things like that. I was in this place of, this is not what you think is your identity. You haven't even
Trying to
come
tell you.
close. You haven't even come close. So come, just give it up and come. And when I got custody of my siblings, like I mentioned earlier, I started going to this church, and it was at the right time because they became a support system.
Mhm.
So everything was working out to where I was in this new place of, I'm not the Shanita who is being told by her parents or by her caregivers to do this for your siblings. I made a decision to do this for my siblings on top of a new way of living, a new mindset, a new, okay, my siblings, you've heard me listen to rap music, provocative music. I'm not listening to that anymore. Every Friday and Saturday night, I was jumping in the car, going to pick up my friends, and we were going to the functions every weekend. I'm not doing that anymore. Okay, what does life look like now? So I was going through all of that at the same time
Mhm.
of going to parent teacher conferences and going to wrestling games and going to band practice and performances and going putting my siblings in summer camps and going to therapy sessions, taking them to therapy sessions, doing play therapy with my younger brother because he was the one who our mother died. He was 5. He was in care since he was 1. He has no memories to this day of our mother.
Mhm.
So him and he is like my son brother, you know. So it was all these things happening, and I was just in a, like, God just had me in a place where he was my anchor, and I was discovering myself in that, and because of that, everything else just kind of fell into place. And and yes, it was something very sacrificial, but I don't think that I came into the fullness of it. It was what it was, and we were all trying to figure it out. We still trying to figure it out, like, I'm still trying to smooth out my relationship with my siblings based off of, okay, yes, you were discovering yourself, but you were very legalistic. You were discovering yourself, but I still struggle with anger issues. Yes, we were all together, and we had stability, we had food every day, and we had roof over our head and all these things, but I still needed therapy. I was struggling with depression. I was struggling with the weight of trying to learn how to learn in college, stay on top of everybody else's schedule. So I had moments where I felt like I was being crushed.
Mhm.
And I would say that, like I said, we just dealt with it. And as the years went by, things happened with my sisters, things happened, you know, um, I mentioned that I had to put my younger sister back in care, and that was because I felt like it was either her or everybody else. Because it was at a point where I was going to lose everybody else based off of what was going on with her. So
Mhm.
I had to make a sacrifice that that in retrospect, I'm just like, man, I wish they would have gave me a little bit more support. I asked them for support. I asked the social services, I need support, she needs support, but it was, oh well, we can't give you that level of support unless she's in the juvenile justice system. And I'm like, okay, so what I got to do to put her in there? because because you're saying that if I don't figure her out, I'm gonna lose my other siblings. But I'm asking you to help me with one.
Mhm.
So when I put her in care, she had her struggles, and then she ended up meeting some guy and he put her out there. She was a prostitute, and she was being trafficked. And when I found that out, I was had moved and went to the East Coast, but even that was a shocker because my sisters were like, "How are you gonna move to the East Coast? What about us?" And that was a time in my life where I had to go, you know what? I got to think about I got to think about me now.
Mhm.
And right now, my brothers are still my brothers are younger. and and I have to take care of them.
Mhm.
If you want to come, you can come, but you got to get your act together. I can't be fighting you in the streets. We not doing that on the East Coast. We're not doing that. So there was a lot of, while I was trying to just figure out who I was, it was a lot of me learning to accept that I can't fix everything, and in that, you know, I had to just have moments where I said, "Okay, Shanita, you got to do this for you. You got to do this for you because it's not healthy, right? Because that's a codependent relationship. It's not healthy to have your life revolve around your siblings. It's not healthy for them. And other than me knowing who I am in the Lord, I'm still it's still a journey to this day. I don't think that I have arrived anywhere other than just the knowledge that, I'm blessed, and I'm chosen, and everything after that is just a beautiful surprise.
Definitely, definitely. Wow, wow. I want to be mindful of the time. I have a few questions left. So if you if you give me five, I give you five back.
Oh.
Oh no, I've been waiting for a moment to say that. Y'all don't even know. I don't know who I heard that from, but I know they heard it from a minister out there. And I'm gonna say it. Like, if anybody know me, I have like a little bit of an O, so you just gotta bear with me. Um, but let's talk a little bit more, kind of switching gears. Um, let's talk about the Shanitas. You know, that season where you chose you. That season where you decided I'm gonna get out there and start back dating. I'm
Yeah,
gonna get into
yeah,
my career field. I'm gonna build a business.
yeah.
you know, figure out me. I'm a heal. You know, you
First
know.
and foremost.
Look. Shoot.
First and
You
foremost,
know,
let's not go out there oozing and bleeding on
I
everybody.
mean, let's talk about a little bit more of that season, kind of transitioning from the growing, and taking care of, and you still was out there parenting still in this season,
Mhm.
but I want to get more into the development of you.
Yeah, that definitely, all of that you're talking about, all of that happened when I moved to the East Coast. All of that happened when I decided, you know what, I do want to work in the social service system, but I don't want to do it here in Oakland because I'm the poster child of foster care, right? I was the positive, oh, Shanita Talton, I was in the newspaper. I was a part of this wonderful organization, Students Rising Above. They put me on TV. People saw me share my story on TV. I would go to the grocery store. They're like, "Oh, you that girl who's on the news," and all the things.
Let
And
me get on you.
yeah, yeah, and people knew me in the foster care system. I was a part of the independent living skills program. I spoke at events and all the things, and I thought, okay, I don't want my professional career to grow here. The dating pool is not dating pool in here.
It's
Um
not pulling.
and it
It
ain't
is.
pooling. It is very dry, and I might get
Oh,
robbed. So let's not date anybody here. And also, because of the way that I was evolving, I just wasn't the Shanita that most people was used to. And sometimes I feel like people didn't give me a fighting chance. They kept me in that box. They kept me in the, oh, what used to be a party girl, the smart party girl, and all the things. But I remember though, right before I got custody of my siblings, I was at this party and they started shooting, and I felt heat pass my face. And when the light came on, I was the only one standing in the middle of the floor because I was like, oh my gosh, I just felt like that was a bullet that fumed past my face. And then after that, um, again, I was in the middle of crossfire. So I got to a point where I said, you know what, Shanita, don't be the good person at the somewhere at a bad time. Don't be a face on somebody's t-shirt. Don't, like, just stop going to parties altogether. Stop talking to these dudes who are not on your level. I was in therapy from high school, from like 10th grade up until my second year of college, and I was with the same therapist, and she would ask me that question a few times. She would say, Shanita, why aren't you dating somebody on your level? Like, why are you doing that? So when I started going to church, I didn't date anybody for like 10 years. It wasn't until I got to the East Coast that, I became open to the opportunity. And even that was just a discovery because I had I had this because of that 10 years where I didn't date. I just decided to focus on me. I decided to heal. I decided to, build my professional career. I decided to just do, like, I traveled. I went on mission trips. I went to the Philippines. Like, I did things I did not have the opportunity to do in college. Um, so I just really spent that time just getting to know me and being comfortable with being by myself. So then in 2017, I was at a place where I was like, okay, Lord, I think I'm open. I think I'm open. And then poof, poof. My husband, my now husband started coming around and came around to my church. And it was crazy because his mom was at the church, and she, I saw her during prayer nights and things like that, and she was wearing this shirt. No, I was wearing a shirt, and it was from the job I was working at. And she looked at it and she said, "Oh, I adopted kids from that agency." And so we were talking about that. And then I get home and my brother say to me, "Oh, Nini, that's my family name. Nini, we met this guy, at the after school program." Because in this season of life, my brothers didn't have sports or anything. So I said, you know what, you're gonna have to do an after school program because I don't want you here by yourself. So they were doing this after school program, and they came home like, oh, we met this guy. He's really cool. He was talking to us. He was showing us how to make beats and stuff. He was talking to us about the Bible, blah, blah, blah. Now, weeks later, the 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 guy who my brothers were referring to is also the son of this woman at my church.
Look at that.
Yeah, so then he comes to church, and then my brothers point him out like, "Oh, look, that's the guy who we were talking about." And I just go, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And I remember one day I was late picking my brothers up and he stayed. So, I'm late, right? I'm like 30 minutes late and he outside cold waiting with my brothers and I go, "Oh, sorry, thank you, skirt," and drive off. so so then I see him at church and think nothing of it because at that point I was just like, I think I had a type in my head and a type of guy I was like imagining, and he wasn't it. And so I didn't think nothing of it. So then months later, he just starts like, he has this big, beautiful smile. He knows how to sing. He's so friendly. And everybody just, "Oh, wow. Oh, hi, Miguel. Oh, nice. Hi, Miguel." When I say everybody in that church was goo goo gaga for him, it was sickening. It was sickening. And I wasn't. I was looking like,
Yeah,
okay,
he is
like
not
who is,
all that.
no, he's not all that. He's really not. And when I say I was really sick, I was sick. I was like, ugh, ugh. And I could tell how people were like, "Oh, look, Shanita, you're in the same, y'all the same age."
What?
And I was like, gagging. And but it was definitely something I've never experienced before because it was one, I was older and I was in this new place where like everything was new about this experience. So anyway, one day he asked to take me out. We went out, and I can tell like that's a whole different story. But we went out. Um, we went to our pastors. We got their blessing. They pretty much like shepherd our relationship and things like that. And then 6 months later into our relationship, he proposed. And then 7 months after that, we got married. And we did everything in a biblical way. Like we our first kiss was when we got married, and we kept everything holy, and we had accountability and we had strong conviction. We had very strong conviction. And so it was just like, marriage be marriage, like it's not for the weak hearted. um but all in all, he was very supportive with me and my siblings. And I can go on and on and on and sing his praises, but I like every so often I do have to stop and just say thank you because I don't think anybody else would have accepted me and and the story, I don't want to call it baggage, but the story that I came with. And like I can't honor him enough for that. And when I say my brothers admire him, they admire him, they respect him. And my family, there's not a lot of marriages in my family. And I looking actually, I can't think of one marriage in my family right now besides ours. Sorry family. But it was it was this new thing for everybody. And so now we're both growing as parents. We have two sons, and we're helping one another just heal. And like I can't, I should invite him on this podcast because he could tell you his story better than I can, because it's like his life is definitely a miracle, and he's been a miracle to mine. And we do have desires on fostering and adopting one day, because he grew up with adopted siblings.
Hmm.
So, literally he has like five adopted siblings. So he understood me in a way that I feel like nobody else did, because he has such a compassionate and a soft heart towards grafting people into families.
No, when they say that one person is out there for you, like talk about divine intervention.
That's true. It's very true. It's very true. It's
Definitely, definitely.
very true.
I want to be mindful of the time, there's so many more questions that I have for you. We may have to hop on here again, just to, continue to fellowship and, just talk about this journey because there's so much more to you and what you do. Um, but I want to offer you the opportunity to um, share any tips, tidbits, or advice that you would like to give out there into the world today.
Mm. I would first start off with forgiveness. I think that we all have different experiences with just with people that we've, experienced life with. And, you know, forgiveness is not for the other person, it's more for you. And forgiveness allows you to make room for other people who who are just new. And I think when we don't forgive a previous person or a previous situation, we keep ourselves from experiencing joy in the next person or the next experience or what have you. So I would just honestly just leave everybody with that, and and forgive someone the way you would want to be forgiven. Um, I mentioned having, strained relationships and still trying to work things out with my family members and with my siblings. And I am I'm at a place where I have to really come to grips with people have good intentions wrapped in bad practice.
Mm,
And everybody doesn't know what they're doing. And it can be very malicious, very painful. And I'm not trying to minimize that. And I'm not trying to say, don't make somebody responsible for what they did, or that's not what I'm trying to say. But I do want to just encourage people and someone had to say this to me when I was going on about my mom and what she did. And somebody said to me, have you ever considered what your mom went through? And then I said, you know what? No, I didn't. And I did a deep dive and learned things happened to my mother that she never shared with me. And I'm still learning things even, 10, 15, I can't remember how long my mom passed, but over 10 years. And it's forgiveness though that I'm able to, even in my mother's death, see her as a person and love her and love the memory of her. And I feel like I'm much better because of that. So that's what I would share.
definitely. One thing you just mentioned is kind of understanding the roots and the pathology of your parents and what led them to the decision making. And one thing I'll add to that is, behavior is language from the youth that you're fostering to the adoptee to you being in your regular birth family home, witnessing your parents. Like, once we as people start to understand the language of behavior, I feel like a lot of things could be understood and communicated and prevented, you know. Um, Sometimes it's hard for us to articulate the pain that we carry on. And through that, um, that roughness of enduring, we sometimes stray away from ourselves and the rationalization of what it means to just have a moral compass, to be a human being, just to supplement a little ease from that pain. And I
Yeah.
believe when I was talking about how do we conceptualize, the
Yeah.
rationalization of individuals stepping outside of that reality, I believe that may be the starting point. We all have something that gave us a little bit of pain and we wanted to ease it. And
Mm,
by easing it, we got a dose
that's
of
good.
that serotonin, that
That's good.
peace,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
didn't know how to let it go. And one
Yeah.
thing that we thought was minor that was okay, now it started to be an addiction. Now it started to be, this or that relationship. Now you 15 into a rough, marriage, or what have you. So,
Yeah.
just take some time, give grace, give love and forgiveness out there. Um, this space, next kind of statement that I'm gonna add, it's a space for you to kind of give a shout out to, what you do, how people can find you. If you got a rap song, an EP out there, a book, somebody that I
Yo,
say
yo,
that
yo,
somebody's
yo,
gonna have a rap
embryo.
song. When I say that, I am waiting
Yeah. I'm telling
opportunity
you,
for somebody
ask my
like, will
husband.
you
Ask my husband. My husband raps, my husband sings.
look, see, look,
Yeah.
he may be the one. I'm like, yeah, they got a rap song out there. What have you? Yeah, so happen. You go on Spotify, Apple Music, you can look,
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you could I'm gonna shout out the nonprofit that I started, Yes, Incorporated. You could find us on Facebook, yes apostrophe. Oops, I said that totally wrong. Yes, comma Miss MISS Inc. You can also find us on Instagram, Yes Miss Inc. And on LinkedIn. And you can connect with me on social media at on Instagram, Shanita Perdomo, and yeah, and Facebook, Shanita Perdomo. Um, I am again a founder, executive director of Yes, Miss Incorporated. It's a college and career readiness organization. We serve underserved girls in middle and high school by exposing them to higher earning careers, and my motto is higher learning equals higher earning. And then we just do this by showing them how to discover their God-given purpose in the marketplace. A job is something that you're going to be doing for a long time in your life, and it's really important to understand or try to understand how is it that God created you, what are you good at? And that's the thing you should pursue and to make money with. Yeah, and that's pretty much what I'm going to shout out.
appreciate you being on here today. Truly, I'm honored and privileged. Every time I hop on these, I learn something more about myself and the individuals I have on there. I'm on this journey of life and I'm ever growing and always learning. And I always tell myself that moment when you are not willing to learn or willing to grow anymore, that's when I'll be done with all this. And I don't think that's happening anytime soon because I love it. But I'm truly privileged to have you on. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for your vulnerability and your the comfortableness and openness. I truly appreciate it. I'm pretty sure my guests appreciate it as well. As I get ready to end today, you know, there was a lot said today, and I know it can hit home for a lot of you out there. I just ask as you are sitting in that car waiting to go into work, finishing up this episode, or getting ready to walk in the house from getting your Walmart pickup, or whatever you're doing, you take some time, get centered, get back to baseline, practice some mindfulness exercises. My goal is not to expose you guys to these beautiful and unique stories of resiliency and beyond in these individuals' lives to have you get to the end of the episode and be in full panic mode because I open some doors in your life. You don't know how to process it or deal with it. So just take some time to get yourself back centered. But also, if those windows, you know, are windows that have never been exposed and they, the hinge is kind of a little bit danky, I will be glad and privileged to help you find the starting point for your healing journey and what that looks like for you. So feel free to reach out to me. My number, my email, my Facebook is out there in the world attached to these platforms that you can listen to. So, give me a holler. I'm always willing to help or even be a listening ear. Um, my other thing I'm gonna say, we all know somebody that we've had relationship with, friendship, um, whatever, you know, um, that we ain't talked to in a minute. It may have been mutual. We may have been like, no, shoot, they came in my house and stole a quarter one day. I don't know. Um, I just ask if it's something that you can't even remember why you was mad at that person for, you know, send some love their way. Reach out to them, check on them. You know, these past few years coming out of COVID and before COVID, there's been a lot of suicides, a lot of individuals going through depression, a lot of individuals going through things alone. We don't know everybody's story. We don't know the roots of their behavior. Um, and sometimes a little bit of kindness can help somebody go a long way. So just reach out to somebody out there. I'm not asking you to have a full spiral back into your toxic X season. We're not trying to do none of that, because we trying to be healed, and thriving. I just ask that just reach out to somebody and show them some compassion today. Outside of that, look, the Resilient Voices and Beyond podcast is here, but I have to call some attention. Guys, um, I cannot continue to do this podcast by myself. I need support. Um, and this is me being completely vulnerable to you guys. Um, I this is a small business. I only been operating for two years now, going on three, but it's been supplemented by other jobs, from DoorDashing, Grubhubbing, working six other jobs, consulting, doing panels, getting gift cards, all that to just be able to keep this going. Um, and I do it because I love it. I love what I do. I feel like this is my passion. This is what God has. One of the things God has put me on this earth to do. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't come without struggle. That doesn't mean that it doesn't come without moments of doubt or what have you. But I believe I have a village out there, and I need y'all support. I'm looking for sponsors. I'm looking for donors. I have a GoFundMe out there to be able to pay for 2 years of keeping this running. And that will allow me time to focus on other aspects of this to build up. But anything helps, like, share, comment, reach out, share to somebody else, but more importantly, I could use some donations, some sponsors, to keep this going. Um, but outside of that, thank you guys. I appreciate you. This has been season 3, episode 19 of Resilient Voices and Beyond, the 107th episode of this podcast. Hope you guys have a good morning, good night, good afternoon, good whenever you're listening to this. Talk to you guys soon.